All right, guys, it's time for another Sherdog exclusive interview. I am your host. My name is Keith Shillan. I'm really excited to speak with this guest. He is the United Fight League owner. They have a big event on August 12th, United Fight League 3, the third event in Mesa, Arizona, which is being shown also on Rumble. It's the semifinals of 5 different weight classes: men's, bantamweight, featherweight, welterweight, middleweight, and female bantamweight. That they'll also, the winners of that will obviously fight in the finals in a card in December. He has been called the anti-woke CEO. He, of course, is Harrison Rogers.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. How's it going?
Really good, man. That's funny that you circled back to the anti-woke CEO. That was like pre-UFL time, so it's like two of my worlds just collided just now. But,
yeah, well, I figured at this time, the presidential election, that's not going on. I throw some anti-woke. Maybe we get some more thumbs up or something. Try to work with the numbers a little bit.
We'll see. Either people hate me or love me, but that's kind of the world we're in right now, unfortunately.
So you just kind of mentioned it. You talked about, your pre-background. Obviously, you're doing your third event for the United Fight League. Tell me about your background, and then what brought you to MMA, and why do you want to, run an organization?
Yeah. Hey, that was a perfect segue. Political things that are going on right now. That's actually how I started this whole venture by accident, because my background is very just business. I wasn't involved in politics by any means. Just head down, minding my own business, growing. I dropped out of high school my junior year for business. I started my first business my junior year in high school, dropped out because I was terrible at school, and then slowly was able to have successes with the different businesses that had nothing to do with MMA promotion. Although I did train, and I love to be involved with mixed martial arts as a fanboy, the most of anything, a wannabe fighter. But I did have some training, and it was a blast. And so I met my now wife, but when we were dating, I was training and trying to do some amateur bouts and whatnot. But when we got engaged, nothing. I definitely shouldn't lean too heavily into that, because I see the amateurs that fight nowadays, and when I did amateur bouts, it was glorified smokers. It was backyard brawl. And so I hate even saying that I did 3 amateur fights, because that's doing a disservice to our amateurs that all talk about our Freedom Fight Night, because they're amazing. They should be pros already, but it's a different world now.
What year are we talking about approximately?
So I dropped out of high school 2005, my junior year of high school, and it was a carpet cleaning business, totally different than the world I'm in now. But then parlayed different successes into other businesses that ultimately landed me into a passion project called Lexington Services, that I started for individuals with special needs, a variety of professional services, because I have an older sister who I grew up with, who had severe autism. And she is incredible spirit, love her to death. She's one of my best friends growing up, and, seeing the different services that were out there for individuals with special needs, I felt like I could do better than what was currently available. It's gotten a lot better now, especially with just autism awareness. But in 2012, I got a contract with the state of Arizona to start providing a variety of services. And then it grew into a variety of services: outpatient clinics, in-home services, adult programs, summer programs, into a private school for students with autism. And, and now we're getting into behavior and mental coaching for, addiction recovery and PTSD, and adult senior care living. So very much in kind of a special niche medical world prior. But obviously I occupy a bunch of commercial real estate with all these different ventures. And so I have a real estate company and a whole investment portfolio for a bunch of different things. And it's allowed me to be very experienced in a lot of different areas with business and in a lot of different industries, that when 2020 happened, you know, everybody had to get political. It was like, wait, I have no idea how to even hold my local representative accountable, let alone these federal mandates and everything that's happening that's, you know, shutting down my businesses. I thought, you know, I'm like, I just was blissfully ignorant my whole life. And I thought I lived in America where we can be free to make our own choices. And then when all my businesses were getting locked down and I couldn't provide for not only my own family, but my, you know, 500 employees who all depend on me to keep the doors open. I had to jump into politics and learn what the heck's going on. And so I was luckily in a position where I could do that and turn over operations to some of my amazing partners. And I just didn't even know where to start. So looking around to different organizations and groups and whatnot, I noticed that I leaned more conservative just off of who was frustrated and who wasn't, and really got involved with the Republican Party and learned a lot. I learned, I swear, as much as you could learn in a political science major master's, you know, program in a year, just by being so involved. And what I learned is that nobody knows what the freak they're doing. The right party, left party, Republican, Democrats, nobody actually not only knows how to solve the problem, but two, I don't think they actually want to, because that's how they can keep control. And it's like, you know, what I realized, the most I learned out of that whole involvement was when I started a super PAC to help raise money for candidates that would never be able to get noticed in a primary. I noticed that super PACs are the ones that actually control everything, not the politicians, it's the money. And so I thought, I just need to help as many good people, Republican or Democrat, make as much money as possible, because those are the ones that are actually going to make the difference when we have enough good people. Because right now there's just a very small amount of very, very, very rich people, and some of them have some very, very different views on how the world should look. And maybe that puts a big target on my back. But I'd rather have a target on my back of a few people than a target on my back from everybody else that hates me. So I'm excited to focus on that in the future when I can actually make some differences. Maybe, you know, maybe that's a pie in the sky idea, but my first fundraising event actually for my super PAC was Freedom Fight Night #1. It was kind of meant to be a one and done fundraiser for raising funds for candidates, like I said, to run in the primary. But I met Frank Mir, I met Tito Ortiz, I met Rampage Jackson, I met, you know, Benson Henderson. I met all these people who putting politics aside, we realized we have something kind of unique here with MMA legends that know this MMA sport world in and out, because they helped pioneer it, they helped grow it. And then,
I mean, Tito Ortiz,
you know, and
like,
then me.
Tito was like, was it UFC 12, I think?
He was the original poster boy. You know, he was, you know,
the dark ages. Absolutely.
And so to be able to pull their knowledge and be able to say from a business perspective how I think I can solve some of the problems that everybody talks about, you know, health insurance, pension plans, fighter advocacy, fair pay, all these other things. I was like, you know, I have to provide health insurance to 500 employees. I have to provide retirement planning for a bunch of people. I bet I could solve a lot of these things. And they're like, well, we've heard that before. We've heard people trying to start unions. We've heard people trying to do this. And I said, challenge accepted. And so we turned Freedom Fight Night into kind of a feeder league to be our amateur early pro league. And we started United Fight League. And United Fight League is our pro, you know, it's going to be UFC Bellator level league that actually provides full health insurance. Our 48 fighters that are, well, the fighters who are exclusive to UFL and fights in our Grand Prix and is comfortable signing multi-fight contracts get full health insurance. They have shares in the company, so as they help grow the UFL off of their sacrifices, their blood, sweat, and tears, they're going to prosper. It's a dividend bearing stock shares where each quarter that we're profitable, they get mailbox money, and which is a glorified pension plan. As long as they hold on to their shares and they, even if they stop fighting, they're taken care of. And so it's in their best interest to stay with the league and help grow it and help make it exciting and build engagement with the audience. And this is just the first year, and it's been amazing to see what we've been able to accomplish in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, I know. One thing you didn't mention is that you mentioned healthcare. You mentioned shares in the company. Also, I know you guys also do life insurance. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean it's part of the policy that they have. That is a full health insurance. They can get their pharmaceuticals, their prescriptions, their emergency visits, their whatever they need, because most injuries happen outside of their actual fight, and in every other promotion, the fighters, if they get injured in the fight, they're covered. But what happens throughout all of their training, all of their normal life? And so we want to help them have better care.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned healthcare, and I know Frank Mir, who's obviously a part of your company, and he talks about it. He always talks about, oh yeah, and then remember when Tim Sylvia had a broken arm and he didn't have self insurance. I always remember he always makes a part like, you broke the arm, Frank. Like he always leaves that part out. Remember poor Tim Sylvia. Anyways,
we do, don't you remember?
Yeah, I remember you breaking
funny.
his arm. So you know how it is. You run a business. Obviously the MMA world, I think at Sherdog, the listeners, we have fantastic listeners, but you go to Twitter, there's always people, you gotta have skeptics. You gotta say, oh yeah, that sounds great. That's what we always been calling for. But what's the catch? What's your response to that?
No, I get it. The skepticism is abundant, and probably rightfully so. I'm new to this world. So I don't have the pleasure of seeing all of the promotions that have come in and come out and fizzled out for a variety of reasons. But I've started to obviously do some research now and see, I don't know if Triller is still around, but like Affliction and all these other ones that come in and blow a bunch of money trying to get, big names. And that's understandable. That was a business model that might have worked if you could weather the storm and hope the audience comes in time for you to get the sponsors and for you to get the everything. But as we've seen, especially as more and more people that doesn't work, people just kind of say, okay, well, we're going to wait these people out. They're going to be gone anyway. And so to be able to build a company that can self-sustain long enough, to be around for 2 conversations, that's the first goal. And so being able to put on good, awesome events and stand for a good mission and survive multiple years, that's the goal. And so to be able to do that, we obviously need to start with very young, up and coming talent who could be the next UFC champions, but they, are going to cut their teeth early on with a new promotion that doesn't have to pay a huge purse amount to, but they still put on amazingly exciting events. So that's what we did. We started out humble and strategic and fiscally responsible, with our purses, because it's expensive just with the health insurance, let alone everything that we're, but we also put on a very high quality promotion and production that's expensive. So purses are one thing, but people don't realize all of the other expenses that go into a quality production. So our goal is to live long, not try to be like, hey, we're going to be the ones that are going to come pay Francis Ngannou $10 million to come fight for us once, or Nate Diaz, and hey, please come make us relevant. I would love to do that. And I think we are going to do that because F3 is blowing up and UFL is a direct benefactor of its success. The more it succeeds, the more money we have to have bigger purses and the more money we have to do all these things. Although even if that doesn't work, UFL is really starting to gain traction with a lot of big money across seas. So anyway, that I kind of got off tangent. The whole point is being able to find ways to be solvent financially with or without the big audience and sponsorships and all these things that will come inevitably, but you just don't know how long it'll take for them to come. And so to not have a way to generate money and be self sustaining, it's rolling the dice, and I don't like to roll the dice on that kind of money.
Well, I think it'd be irresponsible if I don't ask a little bit about the money. Obviously, I think it's fantastic that it seems like if health care and stocks, you're treating fighters like employees. Unlike the big debate that had was private contractors who also, but if I hire someone to install windows in my house, they can also install windows across the street. So they're not like but. The hidden thing is that you mentioned, you have to be responsible with your money. And I don't expect you to tell me exactly, oh, this fighter makes this much money, but I mean, how comparable is it? I mean, is it much lower than what would we compare it to?
I am transparent to a fault. I've heard that we're better than most low promotions, but the most we've paid is a 10,000 show, 10,000 bonus. And it's like, that's not UFC money, but it's also not LFA, RUF.
It is some money. It is not. Yeah, it's a lot of UFC. Actually, believe it or not, it's a lot of UFC fighters' money. And I remember it wasn't that long ago when the UFC was paying $2,000 to fight and $2,000 to win. The loser got $2,000, and then half of it went to his managers and travel fees, and they basically fought in the heist organization for free. I mean, obviously, I think we're past those days, but not that much past. So you mentioned real quick, and I don't want to spend too much time on it because honestly, I feel like it's been beat down to the ground. But the union, you mentioned a little bit of union. I know obviously yours is employee, but are you okay obviously if these guys are acting like employees, and if your guys got together and started a union, is that something you? I mean, most of the time the owner of the business doesn't want that, but is that something you support?
Totally. I mean, I think our employees, all the fighters, now no longer, they'd probably run a union out of the building because they're all shareholders. They all own the company, so they're all like, sure, we can maybe advocate for ourselves now. I mean, which I'm fine with because we're technically kind of already doing that. But I know going this union route to be kind of this outside entity coming into this sport has not worked so far for a variety of reasons. It takes some of the big named fighters like the Francis Ngannou that's tried. It takes a lot of the people who are comfortable financially to give it up and say, hey, I'm not going to do this unless everybody gets treated well. And that's really hard to convince somebody to do.
Yeah. Why is Conor McGregor going to do that?
Yeah. So with our situation, we're just doing it ourselves. We're kind of not trying to be an outside entity going in and changing the whole sport. We're just going to change the structure internally. And we just think our league is going to become the industry, whether because everybody comes over to ours or because the other promotions are going to have to raise their standard, and then ultimately it just changes it anyway. But whether everybody else does it or not, they could choose to come fight with us, and you get the health care. I mean, the health insurance policies are $14,000 a year for each of them anyway. It's like $1,200 to $1,400 a month just in insurance. So the purse money is one thing, but the health insurance and then the mailbox money that the fighters can get each quarter that we do shareholder summits and distributions. As we continue to grow, those purses become less and less important because everybody's getting paid every quarter no matter what.
Yeah, and I apologize to anybody who's watching. Yeah, your video is breaking up a little bit. The audio is perfect, but the video is breaking up a little bit.
Oh,
But
sorry.
I mean, they trust me, we've had much worse than this before, but the audio is absolutely perfect. So that's more important. I don't know if this is an inappropriate question, and I definitely don't want you to name any names if this has happened, but you've talked about, obviously, you're starting with younger guys that you're hoping to butt into stars, but you've got a model that other fighters have been calling for years, people who's been fighting with UFC, fighting with Bellator, fighting with other organizations. Has anybody from the other organizations reached out to you that are currently under contract with a UFC? And again, I don't want anybody to get in trouble. I don't want you to name any names, but what are they, if they are, what are they asking you?
Yeah, absolutely. It is such a fine line. Obviously, I do, just from the business background of being really legally terrified of everything. I just say, look, I hear you're concerned. I hear what you want to do. Until you figure out how to get out of other contracts, I can't talk with you, but I can tell you what our plans are for UFL. And then just because anybody can ask that and anybody can know, they just think, man, that sounds like a dream come true. I wish I could come over right now. And I say, I hope you can too, but I can't talk to you until you can. So, and it's been several names that I'm like, this is exciting. If it becomes possible, we'd love to be a home for these fighters who could, be a big part, who could be a big, exciting face for our league, and get a better situation for their life than what they're currently stuck having to do.
Obviously, again, I know that was a little unfair of a question, but so you can talk to free agents, and one big free agent that just came out publicly about a week ago is Bellator, former Bellator star Michael Venom Page. Obviously, you talk about the money side, but you talk about the regular world. You hear people say, "Oh, yeah, the pay's okay, but the benefits are fantastic." You hear it all the time. "Oh, my wife, this, that, and I got coverage here, and I'm healthcare." It's huge in the regular world, not the fight world, to take jobs because of that. And I know it's not fair for me saying, "Hey, you talk to it," but do you think you're in a position where you could get a true bona fide star in the sport?
Totally.
And is that something you're interested in?
And that is the goal. Before the end of the year, before our champions, we are belting our first 5 champions of UFL in December. And before our UFL 4 championship event, I plan to have signed our first multi-million-dollar contract to a fighter. And I don't know who that is yet. We have a lot of people we're targeting that we want to have conversations with, but that's the goal, and it can be really fun. It's just we're trying to be, responsible fiscally and play our cards right, because if it doesn't make sense, to blow our wad with one, even though it's exciting, if it's not the right time, it's a disservice to all the other shareholders, which are all the fighters. So it's like, I take that responsibility very seriously to make sure that I'm not making decisions based off ego, because I would love to have these big name fighters be like, look what we did immediately, and then potentially shot ourselves in the foot. It's a fine line for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I understand that, and we've seen it before where that has actually backfired on people. Let's talk about your first events. You've already had 2 events. Tell me, in 2-part question, tell me what's the best thing you'd say, hey, this is the thing I'm most happy about from these 2 events, and then tell me, hey, this is what I think we need to improve.
So it's kind of weird, because you're right, UFL has had 2 events, but Freedom Fight Night that we started with has had 3 events. And so it started out as Freedom Fight Night, as like the one and done, but then it evolved into, oh wait, this can always be our feeder league to our UFL. And so what's been really fun is the evolution of some of the fighters that started with us in Freedom Fight Night, because we had, who's like, for example, Ty Gorder and Shane Sibnowski that are fighting in August on our UFL 3 semifinals. They already fought together in Freedom Fight Night, and it was a pretty controversial stoppage. It was like 20 seconds in the first round. Ty Am I glitching out?
No, you're good.
Okay, good. You know,
No,
Ty
so
clips.
the video is breaking up here and there. It's actually pretty good right now, but the audio's been perfect the whole time.
Oh, good. Okay, good. Anyway, it was like a almost knockout of Shane. Shane bounces up because he's a quirky guy. You just never know what's going to happen. And he gets up and knocks Ty out. And so it was kind of like, what would have happened if there was 5 more minutes, or what would have happened if this and this? Like, would that ever happen again? Well, now we get to find out. And so what I love is our league so far, even though it doesn't have the previously well-known names in the sport, they're building names and drama of their own. You know, it's kind of this fun, you know, evolution of fighters that have been with us the whole time. And so obviously we're learning things every event, how to make things more, you know, production-wise, how to make it even more next level. We learned that Arizona needs to be our home. We have such a loyal, amazing fan base there that we're just not ready to travel across the country again and do events in multiple states. We went to Memphis in UFL 2, and it was amazing because it was Rampage's hometown. You know, for his son to be able, for his son to be able to go pro on our card in Memphis was really fun. But it's really hard to get butts in seats when they don't know who you are. You know what I mean? And you don't have the Conor McGregor's to draw a big crowd with just a poster. And so even though it was a crazy success online and views and content wise, like and fights, my gosh, we were spoiled. It didn't feel good to be like, why did we spend all this extra money flying out over here and doing all this extra stuff when our Arizona fans would have all been there in person, and they're all watching it live right now anyway. It's like, we just want to grow and be Arizona's base. We want to be the Vegas, you know, of UFL
of Arizona.
And it's going to get there. So we're staying in Arizona until it makes sense. You know, we don't have to, we're flying in fighters from all around the world. We don't have to travel all around when we can have a packed house every single event in Arizona and give the fighters what they deserve is a packed house. That's what I want to do. And I love Arizona because they're just so proud that we're a Arizona league, and you know, why change that?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing else they got going is the Arizona Cardinals, so you got to give them something.
Yeah, no, it's hard to be an Arizona sports fan for sure.
Let me ask you this: so, you know, you talk about your cards, and you know, the positive is how well the base was in Arizona. The negative was, hey, it was cool to have Rampage have a moment, but you know, we got to build here and this, and then maybe we'll expand later on. We have a bigger brand. This is a star-driven sport. I've always said that you know, guys like me, I watch every card. I'm waking up at, you know, at 5 a.m. watching things. I'm doing a recap show at 2 o'clock in the morning. Like, you don't have to win me over. Like, I'm gonna watch. Yeah. But the people you do have to win over is the one who watches 2 cards a year. The stick and ball fans. You know, they care more about the NCAA basketball tournament. But hey, Conor McGregor got the attention. Ronda Rousey, Brock Lesnar, whoever. Who's the guy? And please don't give me the promoters where you name the whole card. Give me that one guy you say, hey, if the way this guy fights, his background story, his person, whatever it is that you say, if I could get this guy out to the masses, he'll be a star. Who's the guy on your roster right now you think that could be the face of your organization? And why?
Yeah. Honestly, I could do the promoter thing where I just name the whole, because I love them all for a variety of reasons. Like, so there's so many exciting things, but just to be a non-BSer and give you an answer finally, because nobody does that anymore, I would probably say Arum Cosme. He has the thing that even if he isn't, you know, the Anderson Silva or the you know, 10-0 fighter, which he might be. Like, right now he's 1-0 in our Grand Prix, but like, his fighting is yet to be proven over years and years and years. He just has what I've noticed everybody loved in the early years of MMA, which was the personality, the the caring of the audience, loving the sport and enjoying it while you're like the Tito Ortiz loved the lifestyle of MMA. It wasn't a job. He wasn't taking it too seriously. He just loved to go out there and fight. And so that's what I see in him. It's fun to watch kind of it seems like an OG spirit within him.
Okay.
And so I don't want to end it at that because I don't want to disrespect any of our other fighters. Sure. Shane Sabnowski, Ty Gorder.
I get it.
I gotta
get your favorite child. I get it.
Yeah, it's like I feel so guilty saying that because they all are ass kickers, and I cannot wait to see what they all accomplish.
Yeah.
But
it's like, I'm sure Tom Brady's parents, that he's not their favorite child. They love them all equally, I'm sure. Yeah,
exactly.
So obviously, some big names you have been working with: Frank Mir, Quentin Jackson. I know they're working obviously in the broadcast team. They both, I know there's been talks. I know it kind of sounded like it was going to happen in August, kind of fell apart, but there was talks about them also fighting with their kids on the card and everything. But tell me, what's the overall? Because I know they're not more than just the broadcast team. Tell me what's their role with the company.
What I love is that when everybody has shares, they're not just one of those things. They see this as their company. They see this as their legacy, and that's what they are. So they're directors, presidents, they're ambassadors, but they're shareholders first and foremost. And we make a lot of decisions together as a team, as what's best for the league. A lot of the times it's not what's best for somebody individually, which is sometimes hard to get past because everybody's so used to, looking out for number one in this sport. But when everybody's a shareholder, we can go and make those decisions together, good or bad. And it's so fun. So commentators, ambassadors, broadcasters, and fighters. I know UFL 3 was supposed to be the Mir card where Frank and Bella fight on the same card. Bella just keeps kicking butt with wrestling, and so it's kind of hard to get a schedule where she can just fight. But it's really cool too that Rampage is now fully on board to be fighting on the same card with Raja. Raja, his son, is fighting his pro debut August 12th for UFL. That we're targeting a few opponents for Quentin, and if they agree, they will fight on UFL 4 December card. So let's go, man. This is getting fun and it's getting crazy. And between fighter,
that's gonna be quick. Yeah. So how would that work logistically? So obviously Rampage commentary, but also I'm sure he's want to coach his son, and then his son is probably going to be there for him. What happens if say his son fights first and he gets head kicked and knocked out? Now his son's going to the hospital. How's it going to affect him? Like, there's a lot of things that we as fans we just go, oh, super easy. You fight then, you fight next, but it's a little different. It's it's not a batting order where dad bats first and son bats second in the slow pitch softball league. Like, tell me what would the idea that logistically what would happen with the broadcast, the cornering, like how would that work?
I would be lying if I said I knew how or what would, but the best case scenario would be that, Rampage is so involved with the audience and the fans. And so he always is doing like the early door opening meet and greets and the activations and different fun things and the pre-event broadcasting that we're doing with our panels and whatnot. The dream would be him to be able to still do all those things, corner Raja during his fight, which would be earlier on the card. And then, I don't want to say him win because I don't want to ever sound like I'm rooting for one of my own fighters, but I'm sure a best case scenario for that process with Jackson's is that Raja doesn't have a huge injury and that he can corner Rampage in his fight. And then, same with Rampage, that he can be well enough after that event, win or lose, that we can have an awesome interview with both of them at the end of the event. That's like, this is a, historic moment and it's fun and it's, but as you just said, a million variables can happen in between all those things that we're just gonna have to see, and
Yeah.
it's fun, it's scary, but
and plus it's Rampage Jackson, so who knows what he's ever thinking.
Or what he's gonna say on air, and what
next fight you end up he wants to fight his son. Who knows?
We've seen some crazy slapping happen in there already. I don't know if you saw that clip, but they are not shy of slapping each other around. It's fun.
All right. I already kept you way longer than I said I would. Give me your best promoter, 30 seconds, why everyone who's made it this far in the interview, why they're going to tune into UFL 3 and all future events.
I think the easiest thing to do is, this sport has been, and the audience has been asking for so many of these changes that UFL is making. The easiest thing you can do is to just support a promotion that is doing it. It's like, it's free. We stream on Rumble. If you actually are believing what you've wanted this sport to accomplish for this long, support the promotions that are trying to do it. And that takes eyes, it takes audience, it takes it takes giving a chance. And I get that we're not the top of the top, most expensive athletes yet, but just support anyway. That'll get us there. And thank you guys. It's basically asking you guys to tune into something amazing. The events that you will see, the personalities, the knockouts, the submissions, people aren't going in there. What's kind of cool at this level of fighters, they're not going in there to not lose. They're going in there to win. And that kind of makes a completely different, exciting fight.
So there you guys have it. Make sure you check out UFL 3. I once again, I apologize for the video breaking up a little bit. He mentioned the Republican Party earlier, so he got that like Ron DeSantis announcing his presidential candidate thing going on. But anyways, Harrison, I wish you luck in the next event, all future events. And as I always say, the more MMA, the better. So thank you for your time.
Hey, thank you so much.